Hello, everyone. How y'all doing? Okay, I've learned my lesson, but I did it anyway. Azita, you are with NVIDIA. What is your role there?
I'm a general manager in charge of NVIDIA's retail and consumer packaged good business globally.
Excellent. Mark, you are at Google. What is your role there?
Yeah, I am. I spend my days just talking about retail.
It's a good
I
job.
love it, so it's great.
Raj, you're at Bloomreach. What is your role there?
I'm responsible for everything that has ever gone wrong at Bloomreach. That's pretty much my role.
Nice. 100%. We got backup from the audience. Our topic is the relationship with consumers and how AI is affecting that retail experience. And so I want to talk about practical, actual deployments. How are you seeing consumers and their shopping behavior affected by AI? Azita, can we start with you?
Yeah, I think consumers just now are at a point where they want, they want to stop being advertised to, and they want to see personalized recommendation that really meets their needs. So they expect, when they come to your e-commerce site, for you to know who they are, what their preferences are, and not only what their past shopping history has been, but also what they're looking at right now. What's their behavior right this minute on your e-commerce site? So they want to see in-session recommendations, and they expect offers that are personalized to their needs.
Yeah. So deep personalization, the bar is rising in terms of expectation, especially on site. Mark?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing with this particular technology shift is that the rate of expectation change is just so dramatically larger and faster than we've seen in previous shifts. And many of us in the room will have been through the shift to e-commerce and then the shift to mobile shopping. And both were profound technology shifts. But I think at both stages, we kind of, as retailers, had to do a little bit of nudging, a little bit of encouraging. Why would I want to shop on a tiny little screen like this? And then, of course, now we all do it and we all buy into it. What we're seeing with AI is just consumers embracing this technology like we've never seen before. Their expectations are so high because it's in the world around us. It's already here. They're using it already in their daily lives, in school, to talk to their doctors, to talk to their friends and family, and in many cases, not always realizing that it's an AI-powered experience. So I think expectations are just off the chart.
Yeah.
And so when consumers are then showing up at a retail brand and not getting those benefits, it's driving a real level of dissatisfaction. And so I think the real challenge for all of us is, how can we start to exceed and kind of delight customers and meet those expectations, and as Azita said, become more relevant, more personalized, know them better, and help them to get answers more quickly because their expectations are there. And to some extent, we're trying to catch up with those. Whereas in other shifts, we've been trying to drive that change.
So they're dragging you.
I think so, yeah.
Raj, do you have anything to add in terms of how consumer shopping behavior is changing because of AI?
Yeah, I think our experience is informed by the first kind of truly AI native product we launched, which is this Clarity conversational shopping assistant we launched a year ago. And so many unexpected things have happened. For example, when we originally conceived of the product, the idea was that it would be a sales shopping assistant and that people would be bounded in the kind of questions they would ask specifically around product expertise. But it turns out people ask all kinds of random stuff.
Like what?
Well, you tell it, okay, it's a specific product expert, but then it will ask you what else goes with this. It will ask you the kind of question that might be a replacement for a search. It'll bleed into customer service. You can't exactly tell consumers these are the kinds of questions you're allowed to ask and these are the kinds of questions you're not allowed to ask.
Right.
And it's just a reminder to us that human behavior is incredibly unpredictable.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's been really interesting is that human beings have been incredibly forgiving when you give them a humanized experience. So if we go use something on a site that doesn't work, we get super frustrated. But actually, it turns out people are not that annoyed when you're just honest with the consumer and you say, I don't have the answer to your question. It's just much better than, here's a link for something irrelevant.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dichotomy, I think, where we're just beginning to understand consumer behavior around this whole category.
And the machines might actually be allowing a brand to show up in a more human way.
In a more human, in a more authentic way than perhaps ever before.
We didn't huddle about this, but I am curious if any of you has a tale of a consumer or a customer, let's call them a human being even, showing up with their own AI. right? They're not expecting it from the retailer, but they're comparison shopping with a little side-loaded info. They're using Gemini, they're using ChatGPT to try to get that need met. It's not directly from the retailer, but they're bringing their own AI to the party. Is that something that's ever come up in your studies or scenario planning?
I mean, I haven't seen that specific to retail. I tell you where we definitely see that type of behavior is in travel. You know, as you're starting to think about your vacations, your holiday travel, and planning the itinerary, and starting to think about ideas for, you know, events and shows, and obviously accommodation, flights. It's been a type of behavior we've seen for a while now, where actually, you know, the first question might be to Gemini or to ChatGPT, you know, help me with an itinerary for a trip to Paris next week.
He just outed my plans. Thank you for that. That was between us, but now everybody knows.
You're going to have an entourage following Paris. But, you know, to be able to then sort of say, okay, well, what are other, you know, benefit from that shared knowledge of what others are doing and what kind of recommendations I might not be aware of, and then go into more detail using Google search and others to be able to find those pinpoint recommendations. So not specific to retail, but definitely seeing that behavior.
I want to travel to the future. You two in particular are at the defining companies. Your chips are very, very hard to get. I'd love a discount code if you could offer me one on the side. For a friend named Blair. But seriously, Azita, can you cast a little bit of a crystal ball and tell us what you at NVIDIA are seeing in terms of the next year? It's impossible to ask about 5 years. Literally no one knows. But in the next year, are there things that are on your horizon as a company in terms of the future of AI and this consumer experience?
Well, we are preparing quite a bit for what is supply chain. Everything that really drives agility into supply chain. You can offer all the personalization in the world. If you don't have the right product to ship at the right time, it's not going to make the customer very happy. So supply chain is really part of that, and that's anywhere from, you know, the right forecasting, faster throughput in distribution centers, using computer vision, robotics, simulation, all the way to last mile delivery optimization and so forth. So these are areas that, you know, we've been working at for a very long time, but now they've proven themselves to bring a lot of agility to retailers. So as much as, you know, we take care of our front door, which is our stores and our e-commerce and mobile sites, many of the, you know, leading edge retailers are looking at their supply chain as well.
The shipping entrance.
Yeah.
Keep your eye on that as well.
Yeah.
Mark, what are you at Google seeing in terms of the next year?
I mean, so much is unknown, right? I think Raj said it so well earlier. We're at the edge of this major shift. But one of the things I'm really excited about is this concept of AI agents. And again, you know, we heard that this morning in the keynote. So if you look at the trend in terms of the cost and the speed and the capability of this technology, you know, the hardware, the models, the platforms, you know, it's becoming more and more available to more and more users and more organizations. And, you know, you start to be able to bring together really rich experiences, which are a combination of human-like conversations with long context windows, which give memory and context and an understanding across touch points and over time, not just in the moment. And put that together with this kind of sophisticated reasoning that some of these, you know, best-in-class models are also able to provide. And you get to this idea of a really helpful agent, you know, that's something that can either be customer-facing, or it could be an agent that's supporting your team inside of the organization, where I can start to ask questions, and I can start to have helpful answers over time, that an understanding of my own personal context that gets richer over time, that provides not just that kind of co-pilot experience, but real utility, real value, changing the way that I work or the way that I shop. And, you know, we're starting to see that type of concept being experimented with. You know, not necessarily at scale yet, but experimented with. And of course, the key to it is being able to do that over time. So if I don't show up for 6 months in a lower frequency retail environment, that you still know me and you can still pick up that conversation and have that. And so, you know, we are riding this kind of trend in terms of context and cost and speed, but I think that's going to be really, really powerful and really exciting.
And Raj, what are you seeing in terms of your window as Bloomreach? You're in a lot of businesses. What's the next year looking like?
Well, I think there's some profoundly impactful technologies that Google, NVIDIA, and others are pioneering, and the possibilities are pretty enormous. I mean, agents, as we think about reimagining marketing automation or conversational, now we can break up every aspect. We can say this is the campaign automation piece, this is the analytics piece, and we can optimize each of these individually in an agent-based architecture and federate them together to, in parallel, get better at multiple things all at the same time, which I think changes the rate at which things can go. I'm excited about multimodal. I think we've all seen what's happened in China with live shopping and the like. Now imagine just brain explosion when you add multimodal interactivity into live shopping. What could that mean for the way shopping ends up happening? And maybe the last thing I'll just say is on the risk side. So I think the thing we were talking about, or we've been talking about with AI for years since the beginning of it, has been hallucinations and the fact that you said,
which is a friendly way of saying it's messing up.
It's messing up. It's making up
wrong, erroneous. Yeah.
And I'd be the first to say that if we don't solve hallucinations, it just won't happen. This whole AI thing, if we stop trusting it, it just won't happen. So there's some innovations. I think Google announced some things around grounding-oriented models, and I think those are super important as well, because we can have all the capabilities in the world, but if trust is lost, who cares?
Yeah. If trust is lost, who cares? I'm reminded, trust is a buzzword sometimes, right? It's like, oh, authenticity, right? Things we say we want, but if you really dig at it, they're very, very hard to earn, very easy to lose, and then hard to re-earn after lost. So maintaining trust is a full-time job in and of itself. I'm really glad you named that as a risk. In the spirit of real talk, and so close to cocktail hour, I appreciate your 90-10 split from this morning of like 90% kind of BS and hype, 10% consequential. Way to brand the word consequential. But in the BS category, we are seeing so many claims about AI. It's gonna solve all the cancers at once. It's gonna sound and look like Scarlett Johansson. It's gonna do our homework for us and make our marriages better and find us great places in Paris in the flick of a wrist and the snap of a finger. Are we at the peak of the AI hype cycle, or is there more hype yet to come?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, I think the past 2 years has been experimentation. Now it's a time of reality of putting these Gen AI applications into large-scale production. And so companies have to be very mindful of, what are the top generative AI use cases that actually drive business value, and also what the cost of it is, right? And some of these use cases are going to have massive number of tokens going back and forth, and could really add up to be a lot of cost. And so a lot of what we're seeing is, companies focusing on customer-facing applications, but also employee productivity type of applications, and kind of building a hybrid model of, some of the best of breed commercial models, as well as some open source models. We have customers that say, I don't want to train a generative AI model with my data and my products and have my customer use the same model and add to that. So these are things that companies are starting to look at. But I think that there's definitely companies that are well thought in terms of what they're using, and driving that into business production. But you also have to really have an executive sponsor, a business owner that's going to have some expectations of the business value.
I want to come back to that business value, but you named cost, which I also appreciate. And I just had an idea, could be terrible, feel free to reject it. But you all do at NVIDIA the digital twin thing. I remember seeing Jensen talk about this simulation. Could you build a digital twin that would tell me how much it's going to cost to deploy AI over the next year? Because I'm getting these monthly bills from all these things I'm trying out, and they're blowing my mind. Can you do that for me?
Actually, digital twin, a key part of it is just simulating what's going to happen in an environment, what's going to happen in a store, what's going to happen in a distribution center, in a factory, and being able to look at different layouts and see the impact on the throughput, connect it to your point of sale, to your shelves and understand, how changing the layout can actually improve sales. So it does give you prediction of, cost as well as revenue based on simulating different layouts and, different processes.
That was a very solid answer. Thank you. And now know even more about how digital twins work. Mark, on the AI hype cycle, what's your take on where we are in that curve?
Well, I think it's interesting because I think it depends on your perspective. I definitely feel like the consumer and kind of mass public media hype cycle has been very much focused on the large language models. This AI meaning a model. We've been fixated on this model can pass the bar exam. This model can perform better than a doctor. This model can find, and I think, look, we're very proud of the models that we're building at Google and how we're contributing to
Obviously, you have the best model.
Well, I guess this is my point. You get to a world where the model almost becomes commoditized. And it's the platform and ability to apply the model, as Azita said, into real world value adding situations that becomes really interesting. So I think we're coming over this hype hump from a kind of consumer and media perspective, because what's the next thing? Until we get to maybe some kind of AGI type hype, the models just continue to get better, they continue to get faster, they continue to get cheaper. Every day goes by, one outperforms the other in the 20, 30 standardized tests. But really, I get excited about how we're going to put that to work, how we're going to deliver value. And so I think actually it comes down to a question of what is the platform that allows you to deploy these models? It takes so much more than just a model to deliver value from AI. And what the platform allows you to do is put that value, that technology into the hands of business users, folks who can do something with it. So it becomes less of an IT, CIO, software development topic inside the organization, and it becomes more of a business user conversation. It becomes more of now I can answer the questions that I've not been able to answer for all these years. Now I can ask questions of data and get insights that I can do something with today. So that hype cycle, I'm all for. I'm really excited about. Maybe the kind of media buzz perhaps drops away a little bit over time.
Do you have anything to add on this hype cycle question? No obligation.
If I had to predict, I think we are kind of a year or two still. The rate of acceleration of the hype cycle will ebb, but we're still going to be in the hype cycle for at least 2 to 3 years. And the reason why is because every time Google or OpenAI or NVIDIA makes some announcement about some far-ranging possibility, which is at this point every few months, the world goes crazy and says, well, okay, now it's going to replace this set of jobs. Now it's going to transform this industry. And so that's going to, I think, continue for some period of time. But I think we are seeing the beginnings of some cautionary signs where if you look at a lot of, kind of present company excluded, if you look at a lot of the earnings of other tech companies, the questions that CFOs are starting to get is, how much incremental money did you get because of AI? And people are having a hard time answering that question. And in fact, many of those CFOs would say that the announcement of something else, Sora or some other announcement, is actually causing their stock price to go down because some group of analysts is actually shorting the stock, saying, hold up, maybe this business will go away because AI will commoditize it. So we're in this kind of like back and forth between massive transformation and massive disruption. I feel like we're still going to be there for another 2 or 3 years, and then we'll enter the long march of actually creating value.
Is there, and this is back to the value question, so this might be for you to pick up, Azita, but anyone could jump in. There are many business leaders who they're not anti-AI, but they're skeptical. They've been through this dance before. They've made some technological investments, but they've also over-invested. They pursued technologies that ended up going nowhere. They may have overspent or been even too early for a tangible market-based, value-driven return to accrue to them and their shareholders. So how do you respond to the business leader who is skeptical of this moment? Any thoughts for them?
Well, I think every technology that has come around that has stayed, there's always been early adopters and there's always been skepticals, right? E-commerce, there were companies that didn't believe in it, they're not around. Cloud is a big trend that not many people believed in several years ago, but now it's pretty much every company has a cloud strategy. The same is with generative AI. I think the key thing is to not just jump and test things, but to actually have a strategy and really look at, but not just generative AI. I mean, there's so much AI, right? There's computer vision, there's, all kinds of, data science, machine learning.
Predictive learning.
Speech recognition. So for all of these are, different
all
forms
AI.
of AI.
Yeah.
It's really looking at your business and seeing, where you want to make the biggest impact, and be able to put a strategy together and prioritize things. And I think the most important thing I'd like to leave behind is you have to have a short-term and a long-term strategy. Short-term is, everybody's doing something, I got to do something, right? So
Reactive.
Pick one thing you want to do and do it really, really well. And hopefully you have the right skill set in your company. And if not, there's a lot of experts out there, a lot of very, very strong, capable system integrators. But then look at some of the big impact that you're looking for that might be a 2-3 year project. I mean, look at many years ago implementing ERP. That's not a 1-year project. Often takes several years to do that. So I think you got to look at it from both short term and long term. Some projects are going to take a longer time, but they're going to have a massive impact, and some projects are more short term. And then we have partners like Bloomreach that have these great solutions. They've been working with Google, with NVIDIA, and are using the best of breed technology. And often you shouldn't be building, you should be buying. And so I think that's important. Short term, long term, buy versus build.
I'm really curious what you're all hearing from customers as questions. They're struggling with the build versus buy, with the short versus long term, with how to actually get beyond thinking about it and talking about it to doing it. How do those questions land in your inbox and chat screens, and if anyone ever sends physical mail anymore, in your mailbox?
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the questions that we get asked a lot is, how does the organization need to change to take advantage of this technology? And I'm 100% with Azita in terms of this real focus on value, short and long term. And to your point about skepticism, I think it's right to be discerning. It's right to be rigorous. This is significant investment in most businesses. It's right to be data driven. But when you take a step back, fundamentally, you've got to ask yourself the question, do you believe this is a profound shift in the world, in our organization, in our industry today? And you either buy into that or you don't. And I come back to my previous point about consumer expectations and how they're embracing this technology and expecting to see this value. Clearly you'd expect me to say I'm someone that does buy into it. But you've got to make that decision. Do you buy into this shift being profound and being a significant change for our world, for our industry, or not? And if not, sit back, watch it all happen, and see where you end up. If you do buy into this, what are you going to do today to change your organization to be AI ready? And actually, beyond being AI ready, what are you going to do to be AI first? In a similar way to perhaps when we started thinking about mobile shopping, we were constantly asking ourselves that question, is this mobile first? Can I shop on a small screen? Is this going to work on 6 inches of display? So how are you going to be AI ready? And so then the question comes, okay, we're up for it, we buy into it, we believe in it, we're going to be discerning, we're going to think about value, but how do we shift and how do we change? And it often comes back to organization. How should we organize? What do the teams need to look like? How will the function and processes and ways of working inside of a retail or consumer-facing organization look different tomorrow than they do today? How do we break down some of those silos? And I don't know what the answer is, right? And I talk to so many retailers in my job, and the answer varies depending on who I talk to on any given day. But what's consistent about all of those conversations is that those retailers are thinking differently. They're changing their organization. And most often, they're bringing together multidisciplinary teams. So they're taking individuals from different functions across the business and bringing them together to be able to think about how they drive value from this technology. And in some cases, that's small scale. Let's build a tiger team and just 5 folks, and we're going to go and figure out the strategy for the business. In other organizations, it's wholesale. We're going to break everything we've done before. We really want to embrace this. But I think that's the biggest question because as we heard in the keynotes this morning, and I think you said this too, this for me is about augmenting the incredible talented individuals we've got inside of our organizations. It's about giving those folks superpowers to be able to do things they never did before. And we won't be able to do that if we're asking them to work in the confines and the processes and the ways of working that powered our world previously in a world where we're uncertain what that future looks like. So it sounds a little bit kind of pedestrian organizational design. That this is
No, but it also sounds real. And when I think practically about my own experience, even it wasn't a joke. I did lead digital transformation at a comedy organization, and it wasn't about the technology.
Right.
It's about the people. It ends up being a people transformation, how they think about their roles and how they reconnect to each other and their opportunities. And if you don't nail that, you have resentment, you have people just leaving or certainly not giving their best to the new thing. Any other thoughts on questions you're getting, Raj? And then
so, I think maybe what I hear a lot is the struggle. And the struggle, if I were to summarize it, is, okay, I don't even have to philosophically be an AI skeptic or an AI advocate. Let's assume that I believe that this is a structural shift. I still have to go home and deliver year-over-year improvement. I still have to live within the confines of a budget that, because of AI, has not grown. I still have to deliver value that provides incremental lift today to the business. So, fine, Raj, great. We love this long-term point of view, but how do we live within those constraints? And so then the question becomes, hey, can your AI drive lift next week? Can we drive more incremental revenue? Can we drive more incremental profits? Sometimes the answer is yes. But I have to say, I think that the hard place that we are all in as an industry right now is that we're not in a place where we're picking cars. We're in a place where we're picking roads. And what I mean by that is when you're picking cars, you pick two cars and you say which car goes faster, which one is more comfortable. But the rate of change is so significant that whether you're picking a technology partner or building a team, the question is whether the road they're going to take you on in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and beyond, is the road you want to be on or not. Because if you pick the wrong road, it kind of doesn't matter which car you're driving.
All right, I see you with the metaphors. Any questions you're getting, Azita, from customers in terms of their challenges right now?
Yeah, I mean, the question usually is, where do we get started, right? And I think a lot of it is also around employee productivity, right? We're seeing, one of the things that's really one of the industries that's been dramatically changed by AI is the creative world, right? And the reality of it is that generative AI is not going to replace creative people. It's just going to enable them to iterate faster and be able to look at concepts, much, much faster and come up with much more innovative campaigns. So we're seeing a lot of ad agencies that are now using 3D. They create digital twins of products that look real, see lighting through it, and you can feel it and see it in 3D, and then be able to use multimodal generative AI models to create these, just stunningly beautiful campaigns that is not going to replace a creative person. It's just going to let them create these campaigns in literally minutes, things that would take weeks to do, and then be able to fine-tune the ones they like the most. And it's improving conversion. I mean, one of the top ad agencies, WPP, that we work with, has improved conversion rate for their customers. Like L'Oreal is one of them that's benefiting from this.
I want to offer each of you an opportunity for a closing thought. Open-ended, but brief.
Well, I mean, I think from my perspective, we've talked a lot about value, and we've talked a lot about maybe the challenge behind this investment and the opportunity AI provides. I think the biggest opportunity for us all is to have curiosity and to ask lots of questions and embrace this technology shift. We're at the start of something really profound, and we don't know where this will take us. But I firmly believe if we're optimistic, if we're curious, if we ask questions, if we try to think about how we can deliver things that weren't possible before out of this technology, I think we'll be okay. I think we'll deliver good results, and I think we'll get the best out of the technology. So be curious, I think, is my perspective.
Azita?
Yeah, I agree with Mark. I mean, I think it's like looking at all the different options out there and trying it and learning. The world is changing at a much faster pace than we're used to, and I think learning and adapting to that change is going to bring a lot of value to companies.
Excellent. Raj?
I think it's just going to be really friggin' fun. I think we're at the beginning of something really fun that we've never seen before. And if we appreciate the joy and the unpredictability of what's ahead, we're going to have a great time.
Well said. I have been your moderator here, Baratunde. You can find me on LinkedIn. And my own brief closing thought is that the speed thing is a real thing. And it's a real opportunity, and it's a real challenge for us. And so I encourage us all to take a deep breath and let it out. Make eye contact with a fellow human. Appreciate art, and have a great drink at the cocktails later, which Amanda will cue us up for. Thank you so much. Oh, we're not allowed to leave. We are now prisoners to the stage. Excellent. Is that vodka?
Am I on?
Now you are. Yeah.
I'll stop yelling. Sorry, guys. The last panel had an idea for us to open up for questions, so we thought we would actually end our day with questions instead of facilitating another conversation, since I think the panel moderators or roundtable moderators might be tired. Just a quick note, anybody who thinks they saw RAD data hallucinated, like AI does, because it is Raj data, and AI built those slides, so it's AI's fault. All right. So we're going to open it up for questions. We have some in the back. We've got some people with tennis shoes on running around. Let's get our microphones out. Ask really embarrassing questions.
I did not know this was going to happen.
It's for any of the four.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, great. My name is Alex Alexander, and I have a question regarding the change. And the thing is that in the past, the Beatles were not expected, and we loved it. The internet was not expected, and we loved it. Cybertruck was not expected, and okay, let's leave it. And I have a question, and I would like to rearrange it a little bit. So how business can drive trends to not meet consumer expectations, but to surprise the consumer? Thanks.
I love that question.
Great question.
How can businesses use AI to not just meet expectations, but surprise the consumer? The Beatles, I think he said, were surprising. The internet was surprising. What would be surprising to me is if I called up customer service and gave all my information and was handed off, and the next person remembered who I was. Wow, that would be so delightfully surprising.
I know.
But what about you all? Do you have any dreams of surprises, pushing the edge? That's kind of the point, right? We're all on the spot.
What I will say is that I think actually we're going to get surprised a lot. I mean, to use the example of AI art that is out there, because it'll be so easy to create art, something good will actually be incredibly surprising. And that metaphor will apply, I think, in a lot of different areas across the board.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I also think it comes back to this point about change. How are we going to deliver things that we haven't thought of before? This whole, think back to the faster horses, kind of quote from Henry Ford. Unless we change the way we're going to operate and the way we think about how we deliver work and how we get the best out of this thing, we will keep doing the same things. We'll just do them incrementally better. So I think it starts with not thinking about what are those surprising things, but how are we going to change culturally and organizationally to do things differently that then allows us to build those things in time without even really realizing it. But I think it's like, change yourself first before you think about, what are those things you're going to deliver out there.
Change starts within. It's getting very spiritual now. I like that.
Michael Jackson song. All right, next question.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sol Enema. I'm a Director of Group Digitalization at HSBC. My question is, when, and obviously the world is moving very fast, as we know, but when do we get past this view of generative AI to AGI? Predictions from the panel, please. Thank you.
Predictions on when we get to AGI, the artificial general intelligence, long promised, seemingly forever away until quite recently. Who wants to take this one?
Gosh, who knows? I mean, it's really hard to say. I have no idea. And that's just a reality of the situation. I think we are at the very early stages of this shift. I think we're starting to see, we talked about agents earlier, and whilst not quite the same thing, of course, we're starting to see how these new technology capabilities can be brought together to deliver value that's greater than the sum of the individual parts. So we're already starting to see some of that value be delivered. When will we get to AGI? I don't know. I mean, I think, for me, I think we're on a sort of 10-year horizon. Who knows? Difficult question.
Zita, have you all already built this at NVIDIA? Now would be a good time to disclose.
Well, if you come and visit us, you'll actually meet a digital human that can do customer service and provide advice. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to come, but there's also some, new technologies around that area as well.
Wow, vague. I love it. There's new technologies around that area. They've done it. It's okay. We'll find out next week. It's a challenging question. I don't think, humbly speaking, no one has an answer to that question. Even the people building it clearly don't know, but they suspect. And I suspect we're going to have not a single moment, but this asymptotic relationship to better, good enough. A cell phone was trash for a while as far as the quality, and then all of a sudden we're like, this is telephony. This is what it sounds like now. So we might also lower that bar for what the definition is, and our image from the Jetsons of Star Trek and Data may shift into something that's actually more tangible. And then we got a question. What do we do? And how do we handle the wealth? And how do we handle the capabilities? And can we all just kick back and drink Mai Tais on the beach? I would love that future. But there is a deep implication to creating this that is, again, not incremental. That's even more significant than the changes we've been talking about all day, because we're not building entirely for that world. I don't think we are. Maybe you are. You probably have it in your roadmap. I wouldn't underestimate y'all. But it's a big thing. So
I have a question. What's asymptotic?
Oh, I snapped myself back to mathematics class, asymptotic. So an asymptote being this line that never fully approaches the axis or a point but gets ever closer. So if you see a chart and it's trending towards 0 but never touches, or trending towards some y value and never touches, that's the asymptote.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a nerd and I just super outed myself. Look at that. How many comedians talk about asymptotes?
Meanwhile, Zen's embarrassed that I didn't know the answer to that already. Question over here.
Hi everyone, Darren Loveday from Mention Me. I'm a partner at Bloomreach. I'm still scarred from watching Rishi Sunak with Elon Musk a few months back, where obviously there was someone who knew nothing about AI and tech, plus Elon Musk. And I'm kind of, when I think about those scars and the fear that put in me, what's the biggest fear that you guys have about AI and how it's going to be abused?
Ooh, what's the biggest fear you have about AI and how it's going to be abused?
Well,
Everybody, let's go.
I have a big fear it's happening right now in the United States, which is all the fake news and, just impersonating people, their voice, even their, the person itself, right? And disseminating misinformation. I think that's, a lot of the abuse of AI. And, all of us, Google, NVIDIA, we're trying to be part of helping the government put some controls around these things and guardrails. But that's, for everything good, there are a few bad people that can do very bad things with them. And it's, it's our role to build the guardrails and build what we can to prevent it, but it's still happening, for sure. And especially right now in the political environment that we are in the United States, we're just seeing a lot of that.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, again, is the answer, but I do think, this is less of an AI question, more of a societal question. Like there have been bad actors throughout history who have been able to take advantage of technology development, from the printing press to television and radio to the internet to maybe AI. You can spend a long time getting pretty depressed and negative pretty quickly, but I choose to be optimistic about it. And I choose to believe, maybe falsely, let's all meet up in 50 years' time and see, but I choose to believe that the opportunity for good to come from this profound shift outweighs the challenges that the bad will bring. And there will be some for sure, and there already are, to Azita's point. But I choose to be optimistic about it. And maybe that's a naive perspective, but that's just how I think about the shift.
Well, I'll throw this out there. I mean, just recently, many of you may know Hugh Kimber, our general manager in the UK. He called me and said, "Hey, I got a voice message from you about how you're coming to Europe and need to transfer some money. And I know that you don't typically communicate with me on WhatsApp. You typically communicate with me on text. But it literally was a recording that sounded very much like me, leaving him a message in this regard. So this is not like some future threat that's just out there in the political sphere. This is going to impact our everyday life, on a regular basis. And I think the good thing that I can tell you is that for every deep fake that's out there is an AI team working on deep fake detection. And so the counterweights are there. And maybe the last thing, this is a little bit meta on this point, but I don't really ever believe the solution to technology abuse can ever be technology by itself. There has to be a significant economic cost to the actors that are involved in this to demotivate this kind of behavior. And that's what we need to be advocating with all of our officials and government and the like, to find solutions that don't require them to understand the details of NVIDIA chips, because otherwise we have no hope of actually getting there.
Since we're right before cocktails, I want to leave us with some hopeful news. And I think one of the key things AI is going to help with is drug discovery and helping with cures. And so that's one area. It's not my area of expertise, but there are generative AI models that are now trained with DNA and molecular data and are being used by some of the top drug discovery companies. And I think it's going to, look at, the vaccine that was created for COVID. That was a lot of collaboration and a lot of AI that accelerated that. Drug discovery used to take 5-6 years. And so as we approach the cocktail hours, I would say that hopefully we'll have more cure to some of the awful diseases that are out there. So that's the positive side of AI.
And here's a little business opportunity for you in the area of massive disregard for or destruction of trust that will come from fake everything. Even if we have the counterbalance, we still have doubt permeating everything. Is it real, is it not? So proof of authenticity is a big opportunity. Maybe it's blockchain and crypto has a comeback, I don't know. But we're going to seek out authenticity in new ways because what appears real can no longer be taken as real to the level of fidelity that we've been able to trust in the past.
We got one final question. We'll do quick responses to this, and then we'll close and move to the cocktails.
Hi, I'm Adam from PetShop.co.uk. We're an online pet retailer. One specific question I had was, we're currently weighing up different search solutions and recommended product solutions to optimize our customers buying more related products. And I guess the concern that we have is there's lots of different AI solutions out there. But how do you, it's a black box, an algorithm, how does us as a retailer identify which solution is going to perform better without taking the big risk of, once you sort of commit to a software solution, you're kind of married to it? And so the question is, how do you, given that it's a black box, an algorithm, how do you compare different AI solution providers to know which is going to perform better and convert better?
Did you all understand the question?
No, summarize it.
How, given that so much of AI is in a black box, how does a retailer like his, when comparing solutions, assess them? How do you compare and contrast what might perform better without actually being able to see under the hood? I think the obvious answer is that Bloomreach's Search Plus is what you need. But if you insist on doing your own research, how would you advise someone for whom that is not an available option to get under a hood that is sealed, welded shut in so many cases?
Well, I re-emphasize your recommendation of using Bloomreach, which is developed with two of the best AI expert companies in the world, NVIDIA and Google, and we've tested it. We've looked under the hood, and it's a great technology for e-commerce and both search as well as shopping advisor. Just adding a little bit more fun.
Yes, you are. Either of you want to engage with this opportunity to big up your competitor?
Enough said on Bloomreach. I certainly won't talk about that. But what I will say is I appreciate how hard that is. I mean, a lot of these AI solutions really are black box. And the relationships, it's not as simple as a straightforward scoring function anymore where the neural networks are complicated. They're beyond our ability to process. So what I would always say is for sure, test where appropriate to understand the conditions, and look at the upbringing, meaning that often the teams, the companies, the investment capital, the surrounding ecosystem does make a huge difference because as I believe you're betting on a road, and it's whatever vehicle you pick, it's going to change incredibly quickly in the years to come. So no easy answers, but some indicative data points.
And there's another product opportunity in here for some benchmarking. As we start to standardize this, there are tools that can help you build a website. There are tools to help with email automation. And there develops a marketplace of journalism, of reviews, of benchmarking and testing. So I imagine some of that will come, at least to these functions, if certainly not AI as a whole, which is kind of too broad to be meaningful. But you'll find an opportunity. And if you have enough budget or a red team, you can do a little A/B test in a small unit on a sample size, on a little piece of your customer base, even with your own data, to see, okay, what's the easiest to onboard to? Not everybody's going to have the budget to play with multiple vendors, but if you can isolate a small portion of it, you might find out more than just looking at the marketing materials. And I love the DNA analysis of what's the origin of this, what's the team, what's their approach, and even their philosophy, because you're partnering, you're letting someone into your business in a way that is profoundly more intimate than other tools we're used to using. Even intelligent ones, even data-rich ones. These systems will know you more than you know yourself, individually and collectively. So who do you trust and who do you vibe with? And that's only something you can answer.
Awesome. Thank you.